Hi guys, it's Paulina here. So glad to be back with you. So welcome to our virtual home edition again. So I thought today, since fall is closely approaching, that we could go ahead and make some fall themed watercolor postcards. And why not do it with a fall harvest moon? All right guys, let's go ahead and get started. All right guys, so before we get started, let's go ahead and just look at our supplies. If you have these at home, that's perfect. If not, we do have kits going out. They'll come with a watercolor palette and one watercolor postcard. All right. So what you want to do first is have 2 cups of clean water, a tray to where you can mix your colors, and you can use a tray like this or a paper plate or a plate at home or even the top of this to kind of blend your colors. Some paint brushes, pen and pencil, some extra paper for some test strips so you can just test out your color before you put it on your paper, and some tape as well. Alrighty. So first things first, you want to grab your watercolor postcard. Make sure it's the bottom the right way up before you tape it down. And we're going to tape it down so we can have a nice clean border when we're finished. Kind of like these examples over here. You want to go ahead and put it as straight as you can, but if not, that's okay. That way. Wobbly. And you can use like masking tape or Scotch tape. Beware of duct tape though, because that will ruin the paper. There we go. All right. So with one of your water cups, you want to go ahead and get your watercolor palette nice and wet so it's easy to work with. Just a drop there. And all the colors. Let that soak through. And the reason why we have 2 watercolor cups is just in case it gets dirty. You can move on to the next one. Nobody wants to work with dirty water. All right. It's not sticking to the table. There we go. That way it won't move. Now, you'll want like a circular object to create like your giant fall harvest looking moon. I just use the top of a jar, but you can use anything circular at home. All right, so with my pencil, I'm gonna go ahead, not put it in the center, but put it like a little over the center. Just draw lightly around the bottle cap, or the jar cap, for my moon. Ta-da! And then you can go ahead and draw your tree branches. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we're gonna paint over it. Just go ahead. I just add little squiggles, little snakes. Definitely want to put one across the moon so my friend can sit in the tree. It doesn't have to be perfect, because if you look at trees outside, they all look so different. None of them look alike. Maybe during springtime when they're fully bloomed, they look kind of similar, but when it's fall, they definitely look different. Looks pretty good. And then for our little happy friend hanging out in the tree, you can do a bat or you can do a cat or whatever you'd like. I just like the bat because it has really cute eyes. Like a U shape for the body, and then little V's, upside down V's for the ears. There we go. Nice big eyes, so you can see it at night. And I like adding little feet to the tree. That way you know he's hanging out there. There we go. Now let's go ahead and dip our brush. Now there's some different options. You can do a blue sky or like a fall sky or a little bit of both. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a little bit of both. Okay, so with my tray, I'm gonna go ahead and pull some blue, because I wanna make purple. So blue and red make purple. Clean that up. Make sure I dab on my paper towel. Add some red. Getting a purple. There we go. Now with our test strip, this is where I like using these, because you only get one of these, so you don't want to make a mistake that you can't take back. So with one of my test strips, I'm gonna just see how the color turns out. Well, it's a pretty purple. And if I like that, I'm gonna keep that, so go ahead and move this. On the top of my sky, I'm going to paint the first layer of purple. I try really hard to avoid painting the moon, but if you do paint the moon a little bit or you paint over the line, that's okay, because guess what? The moon is not a perfect circle. Fun fact. Go ahead and paint that layer on. And then you guys can like add layers if you want to make it darker. You see how dark that one is? That's obviously like a lot of blue and a lot of red mixed together. Lots of nice layers. And I like to pull it down to kind of lighten it out a little bit. There we go. Beautiful. And see, mine has already bled a little over the line that I drew the moon. That's okay. I kind of like that because it looks like clouds are moving by it. Kind of gives it that spooky fall feel. That's always nice. Test that. See how light that is? Kind of add that so that way it blends nicely. You don't get that harsh line. Super. Okay. Now I see some red. Want to go ahead and pull some red. Add some water. Ooh, that looks nice. Alrighty. Go ahead and add that on. And don't worry if it looks too bright. You can go ahead and always add water to your color and it'll fade it a little bit. You can just pull it down. I'll show you guys after I do this part. So now with a clean brush, you can go ahead and just kind of blend the two together. See how nice that looks? And sometimes adding a little bit of the red upward into the sky, even the purple, kind of gives it that sky look. Like when the sun sets or when the sun rises, you know how you get those really pretty colors like your oranges and your yellows and your reds and your purples? It looks more like a cool sky. There we go. Perfect. Nice. Have some orange. Go ahead and grab orange with a clean brush again onto my tray. Looks good to me. Go ahead and keep it like that. Move this over. Go ahead and add that. It's starting to feel like fall. My painting, not outside, it's still 100 degrees out. But it's fall. All right. And the great thing about painting on a watercolor postcard is that you can keep it for yourself, or you could frame it or put it on the fridge, or you could also mail it to somebody. All you need is just a stamp and an address and a cute little message just saying that you're thinking about them, that you're thankful for them. Very, very easy little gift. It's very thoughtful and it's very nice. I like this. And if you want to make more, you can easily, on the back of your watercolor paper, if you have extra at home, you can easily make it to look like a postcard. That way you don't feel the need to have to find watercolor postcard. This is just easier. There we go. Look at that, it looks cool, huh? Alrighty, another clean brush, dab, dab, dab. Add my yellow as my last layer. The yellow on this watercolor is a little light, so you can go ahead and add more. Let's try that. I like that, all right? Go ahead and add the last layer of the sky. Perfect. If you want a little bit brighter, like I said, you can go ahead and layer it if you want to with more yellow. Or you can keep it light and kind of pull the other colors that we painted before into it. Kind of like how I did with this one. Oh, you can see it better with this one. There's definitely some orange and some red that bled into there. Okay. Go ahead and fade that out a little bit. Pull it down the orange. I think it looks kind of cool. Now, you want to go ahead and let your sky fully dry before you move on to the moon, the tree, or the bat. I'll go ahead and get my moon ready. So all you want to do for the moon is just pull a little bit of black onto your paintbrush, put it in your tray, and add a lot of water. Because you don't want a really rich black on your moon. Clean that up. Go ahead and test that. See, that's still pretty dark. I want it like very light, so definitely want to add more water to that. Much better. Ooh, yeah, that's perfect. Because it looks like it's behind the tree. You don't want it to look like the moon's in front of the tree, because then that just looks silly. All right, so my painting's still wet. I recommend you just to let it dry completely before you start painting the moon. Okay. Now, I don't know how to describe this part when you're painting the moon, but I think the best way to kind of explain to you how I do it is to kind of like how a snake moves a little bit. I use like the flat end of my brush and just slowly tap. I only put it on one side. And just kind of snake it. A little bit. And pull it. That way, like, it looks like a cloud's kind of passing by. There we go. Pull it. It looks pretty good. And when it dries, it looks way better. Pretty big cloud. This definitely looks better. Alrighty, perfect. Now definitely let that dry before you paint the tree or the bat. Now I see that most of my tree is dry, but I'm gonna wait and be smart about it. But I am gonna get my palette ready. I use black for my tree and my bat. I don't dilute it, which means add water, because I want it to be nice and dark. I want it to look like the tree and the bat are in front of the moon. Now very carefully, I'll go ahead and start with the bat first, since my moon is still drying. Lightly trace. It's a lot of paint. Very carefully. Fill in the bat. Painting, I feel like I hold my breath when I paint around the eyes. So I don't want to make a mistake. But if you do, that's okay. If you do accidentally end up painting in one eye, go ahead and paint the other one, because you know what? Bats like to look at the moon too. And maybe we're just catching him while he's staring at the moon, not staring at us. Go ahead and add some eyes. I like to draw little feet. Look at that, it looks cool. Okay. Now, it's wet right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just paint my tree over here on this side. Go ahead and follow the pencil markings that you made. If you can't see them because you went darker like this one, that's okay. You can just go ahead and freehand it. Now I like to start skinny and get thicker on the way down, or you can do thick on the way up and then skinny all the way. Just depends on how you want to paint your tree. I think it looks more natural when you're skinny up here towards the end of the branch. There you go. It's kind of cool, and just kind of pull that down. And don't worry, like I said, you guys, watercolor is super forgiving. If you make a mistake, that's okay. It'll probably make your painting look way cooler. There are tons of famous artists out there who have probably looked at their own paintings and like, oh, that's a mistake. I didn't mean to do that. But people who are not them see it as a work of art, and it is. Nothing's perfect. Perfect is boring. Looks kind of spooky. It looks like hands. More like claws, but. That looks cool. Pull that down. Ooh. That looks super neat. This is where it gets tricky, because like, I want to see his toes. Now, you guys are going to see right here, because it's a little wet, because I didn't let it fully dry, it's probably going to bleed a little bit. That's okay if you like that. You can go ahead and let it bleed. Definitely adds a little bit more spooky effect. But if not, if you like a clean, crisp line, you can go ahead and like let your tree dry fully before you add the next layer. Go ahead and make it darker. I think it looks cool. So I'm adding a second layer. Looks cool. Pull that in there. You see one toe. That's okay. Alrighty. You're practically done, guys. You can go ahead and add some bats in the background if you want to. You can just leave it like that. Whatever you'd like. Now, before you rip off your tape, you do want to make sure it's fully dry. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that a minute to dry. All right. Well, this side's pretty dry, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the tape. Not that this tape really worked well with this table. Hopefully you'll have better luck than I will. Now I like to hold down and gently pull, because if you pull too hard, you will rip your paper. You don't want to ruin your painting. a little tear here and there is okay. Lightly pull that back. Look at that border. So nice and clean. I like to hold down my paper and pull. Okay. See, it's tearing a little bit. That's okay. We'll start on this end. That's okay. There you guys go. Look at that. Your fall harvest painting. Beautiful. Now go ahead and mail it to a friend or a grandparent or someone who lives far away. Let them know that you're thinking about them. Or people who help you out, like your mailman. That's probably somebody who would love a gift from you. Or you can go ahead and hang it on the fridge. That way every time you go down for breakfast, it greets you and says, happy season. All right, guys. Thank you so much for painting with me. It was such a blast. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.